fact that I've been here for 27 years living in the UAE, and for me it's been such a pleasant and wonderful experience. So I'm now on a mission to discover other people's experiences on how they have made the UAE their home. Today's episode, I'm here to meet with Afzal Baig, who's been in the UAE and in Sharjah region for the last 45 years, with a vast experience of how things have changed over time. This should be an interesting episode. So tell us a bit about yourself. Who is Afzal?
Well, Ismail, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. Afzal Baig is a product of the United Arab Emirates in the sense that I came to the United Arab Emirates approximately 48 years ago. So I grew up here, and obviously your question is to do with what I do for occupation. So I am an advisor and a consultant focusing on growth strategies. So it could be from a country development perspective to multinational organizations, should they require that type of service.
Now, usually this would be the time where I'd ask somebody what were their expectations before coming to the UAE, but obviously you've been here since a young child. So I guess the question is, your father, for example, he came here, I assume, to work?
Correct. My father, Allah Rahmah, started based on an invitation to work in Qatar. So he was from the engineering, he was an engineer by profession. And then he moved to the United Arab Emirates, starting with Dubai. And the company at that point was Sir William Halcrow and Partners. And they were responsible for some of the earlier developments within the United Arab Emirates. The passion started with my first career, and that was in logistics. I used to work for a British-based company called MSAS, which was later acquired by Excel and then by Danzas DHL. So what happened is that you had the opportunity to work with different industries. So you would move to providing solutions to a pharmaceutical company, and then you would talk to people from the fashion industry, then you would go to an automotive. So for me that was quite challenging to attend to various customers. That later moved on to being able to work also with governments. So I had the opportunity to work with the government of Luxembourg as an advisor to the United Arab Emirates, for the United Arab Emirates and Qatar. I also had, or I still have, a role with the government of the Seychelles in promoting their trade opportunities. See, with Sharjah, it has been, it's a very unique emirate in the sense that they were the first to have the airstrip. And then they had also the first radio station. So they were pioneers already in certain aspects. And trading, that has been the blood of most Emirates here that constitute the United Arab Emirates. I would say that Sharjah has moved to a sophisticated level of conducting business. Because you have today Sharjah as the base for Air Arabia. You have the Hamriya Free Zone that looks after large free zone entities, companies that would like to get into manufacturing. Safe Free Zone, for example, which is adjacent to the airport, caters to customers who have probably a quicker, their requirement is a quicker delivery time. So on the trade side, the Sharjah Department of Commerce and related departments have taken into consideration the requirements of the companies that are in Sharjah. So to help them grow, and on the same format also enhance those services so other companies could also come and benefit from what Sharjah has to offer. I will also add this safely, that Sharjah has been home to a lot of the manufacturing companies that we see in the United Arab Emirates. So the resources were available. For example, some of the things that probably led to that. And the ease of government policies, of course the transportation, the logistics, etc. And I believe that it still continues to hold strong in the fact that the manufacturing units prefer to a larger extent to be based here in Sharjah. Part of my responsibility is to enhance trade between the countries, in this case Luxembourg and obviously with Seychelles. But going back to Luxembourg, we had a trade delegation that have come and met with their respective teams at the Chamber of Commerce, and looked at various possibilities. There have also been establishment of some Luxembourgish companies, and they have sort of progressed on that. I actually requested at one point the delegation to make a formal visit to His Highness the Crown Prince's office, and we had the very rare and memorable opportunity of meeting with His Highness the Crown Prince, and it was a very interesting meeting because they spoke more on opportunities, and it was a very informal meeting. We also had a chance to visit, as directed by the office, the Center for Cartograph, so the maps, and we looked at the ancient trade route maps. So it was quite an interesting experience on that front. The delegation from Luxembourg included His Royal Highness the Crown Prince of Luxembourg, and the Minister of Economy and the supporting team members. Well, the thing is with Seychelles, things were picking momentum. Obviously, the pandemic has had an impact, so travel is not that easy. But I think that as things progress, there will be meetings at different levels within the government.
Now, everyone has a place in Sharjah or somewhere they like, something that's special to them. They have fond memories. So what is it in Sharjah you like or you have fond memories of?
Sharjah is a very interesting emirate in that, it is all, when you enter Sharjah, there is a sense of calmness. So you are traveling, for example, at 120 kilometers. And as you move on the eastward side, you feel that things are slightly at a slower pace. I'm talking about as a person. So Sharjah has always been to me a family emirate. So it encompasses a lot of things that is within the family. Talking about the change, I remember coming to Sharjah, and I still do. My family lives here, a branch of my family lives here. And we used to come here, so obviously we used to frequent the traditional souk, the fish markets, of course, and parks with the family. But over the years, we have seen that things have developed tremendously, but they kept the impact on the family. So you see most of these developments, they are centered around, I feel, in my opinion, within the family. I would say the Sharjah, the old souk, because I'm nostalgic, maybe by person. So visiting the souk takes you back in time. And they've been able to maintain the decor that still takes you back in time. So that is for me, interesting. I also have, in particular, interest with the Kasbah Canal and the building, because we had the opportunity approximately 15 years ago to assist with the redesign of one of the bridges. And we had brought in a colleague of ours from France, and incidentally, he happened to be from French royalty. So he came here to help us, but the word got around, and then you had media following him for who he is. So that was interesting. And also, I had a chance to mingle with His Excellency Marwana Sarkar, and we developed a greater friendship from that start.
So you've built up a very big portfolio of work experience. You could pretty much go anywhere you wanted to work. So what made you stay in the UAE rather than go outside?
That's a very interesting question. I think the fact that, and God bless the rulers of United Arab Emirates for their vision and for their development, because they have taken the whole expat local population into consideration for the growth. So you feel part of that process. And of course, the safety and security is very important. And today you have everything within the United Arab Emirates. You don't need to really go outside. And as I have traveled, I had the opportunity to travel to the US, Europe, on Asia side as well. To a large extent, I cannot see a similar situation elsewhere. So I feel very comfortable within the ecosystem that the United Arab Emirates has achieved. And there is more to come. So you look forward. On that side note, I would also like to say that societies are built on strong education. The vision of His Highness, the ruler of Sharjah, has been one of the key components is education. So you are producing the sons and daughters of Sharjah are in the forefront when you look at business administration, technology. They're supporting the growth of Sharjah. So that is very interesting. And not just Sharjah, they will, I believe, in the future, support in the growth of the United Arab Emirates. And one of the reasons, if I may just say this, sorry to interrupt you, Ismail, if I may just say this, is because parents feel comfortable that they could send their children, and they could be from African countries, they could be from Asian countries, and I don't know, maybe even from European destinations. They feel comfortable. They know that the children are safe. They know that the children can grow and develop themselves, because all the things that is required for their development is present, minus the negativities. So that, I believe, is an amazing accomplishment.
Usually I ask people, who came here about cultural challenges they face, but I guess in your case I would ask you, did you, growing up here or living here, face any cultural challenges? Did you feel that you're not wanted, or that you couldn't get on with people? Like many people who work abroad, they find that problem.
I think it's an interesting question, but I've had the advantage here because I grew up here. So you've been growing within that environment for a long time. But having said that, I believe that the Emiratis from Sharjah and in general, they are very forthcoming. They accommodate different nationalities. We have nearly 200 nationalities living here. So really hats off to them that they have found a comfort level both ways. So I think that is quite a feat, because that's not something that happens in many places, even in developed countries. They still take time and they're still coming into terms with. But over here, you would find that there is a cohesiveness between the local population and the expats who come and live here. And if I could also say this, when an expat comes to live here for a certain amount of time, he or she prefers to remain here than to go back. So that is the impact that the United Arab Emirates has on a person. And countries are made up of people. So it's really the people that has made the nationals of the United Arab Emirates have made that possible, that they accommodate and they adjust to the international community that they are part of. If I may just say this, and the reason I believe for that, Ismail, is that Sharjah, along with the other Emirates that constitute the UAE, they're always progressive. There's always something happening. There's never a dull moment. So there's always something to look forward to. It's not that you achieve something today and then that's it. tomorrow is different. So this excitement, it has an impact on people. His Highness the ruler of Sharjah, you see some of the things that we see for the education, on the trade, hospitality, tourism, the airline, aviation, etc. You see, these things have been planned much earlier, of course. What we are seeing are the fruits of the hard labor that has gone into planning and being part of that vision. So I believe that the future, Sharjah, we will see much more. And the reason I believe in that is because I see these young leaders who are spearheading government departments, and they have the experience and they have the expertise, and they're doing things in a wonderful way, holding on to the culture. So that is why you will find a lot of projects, which I think is fascinating, where there is the sustainability element added to it. So that makes it quite an interesting scenario.
Now you mentioned, you obviously discussed and mentioned that you had delegations that came from Luxembourg and Seychelles. For example, Luxembourg, which was a longer period that you were advising them. Did you see any particular projects that took off due to this relationship or the visit from the dignitaries from Luxembourg?
See, Luxembourg is, as you would know, is the banking and financial capital. And it is second to the United States when it comes to fund management. So they have the whole infrastructure for that type of activity. So they're not more they're not a more let us say a German, France, Italy sort of a trading entity. But having said that, you would find that some of these huge deal structuring element has been rooted via Luxembourg, because it has the elements in place. So Astra is a communication satellite company, and they work very closely with the United Arab Emirates. There was a product called Yahsat, if you remember, with Etisalat. So that is a joint venture between these entities. There are other small components in furnishing. I myself was part of Elite Management Services. It's a company, and we looked at some consulting work together with them. So there has been the trading bit as well, but largely it's the financial structuring that has I would say more prevalent than the others. I was able to let us say bring the common elements, which is my responsibility, by the way, between these countries. And they felt that Luxembourg at that point, they felt that it is important now that they establish an embassy in Abu Dhabi in respect of that relationship. And that happened. And I believe that was quite an interesting development to happen from the Luxembourgish side.
Earlier on we mentioned obviously about Luxembourg dignitaries. Now you mentioned that you had the opportunity to meet with His Excellency Marwan al-Sarkar and the Crown Prince, but I believe you also met some other dignitaries that had an impact. Who were they?
See, part of my responsibility is as you mentioned, to bring people together. So I've had the wonderful, actually delightful experience working with personalities who are Sharjah based, as your question, like Her Excellency Sheikh Lubna Al-Qasimi. She had a ministerial portfolio at that time, I think foreign trade. And she's intelligent, sophisticated, she's very articulate, and she projected, I would say, the energy radiation was just perfect, because it was a perfect blend of Eastern culture with Western outlook. So that had a positive impact on the delegation, because they were new to this part of the world. So they are seeing women in leadership roles and doing it sometimes better than they would see in their countries. So that was quite impactful. I've also had the opportunity to interact and work on some opportunities with His Excellency Ahmed Al-Amri, who is the chairperson at the Sharjah Book Authority, which I think is magnificent. again, the vision of the ruler of Sharjah, because it is taking people back to the art of writing. So I think this is interesting because what we see is Sharjah not just positioning itself with the other cities, metropolis of the world, but it is actually going one step beyond and doing things that others would like to emulate. Anyone could have taken this opportunity, but it was Sharjah who took the opportunity, because we know that His Highness the ruler of Sharjah has that sort of a mentality. He's a historian, and he's an author, a poet. So you see all these things, it encapsulates into the Sharjah Book Authority institution, if I could say that. And they're taking it to the rest of the world. So you prepare something, it has an impact, then you're sharing it with the rest of the world. And today, the rest of the world is coming to Sharjah because it is helping the whole dimension. People who read, people who write, people who like to listen. So this, I believe, is quite interesting.
Well, thank you for coming on to the show. It's been interesting, a different perspective. Everyone who comes has a different angle. Your angle was very interesting. So thank you for joining us on the show.
So Ismail, thank you again for having me on this show. And I think, please allow me to congratulate you and the team for organizing this. I believe that these programs are important. And I think that this is probably the only one of its kind that I know of, where you have the expatriate population able to air their thoughts, experiences, feelings. So I think that is absolutely amazing. So my congratulations to you and your team, and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you.